Welcome to episode 58 of the Toadstool Boardroom for the week of September 6th, 2023. I'm Logan Plant, joined as always by Justin Corice. Hi, Justin.
Hey, Logan.
And this week's potentially our biggest show ever. We're going to talk about Mario Wonder, which we've played. I've played Detective Pikachu Returns. We walked the show floor at Nintendo Live, and we talked with Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser. It was a huge week at Nintendo Live in PAX West, kind of like we thought it was going to be, and it lived up to the hype, Justin.
If anything, it was bigger than we expected because we weren't expecting to get hands-on time with Mario Wonder. And, we had a chance to see Reggie give a keynote address. There was a lot. There's a lot to get to.
Yes, but if this is your first time tuning in to the Toadstool Boardroom, if you wanted to hear about Mario Wonder, Detective Pikachu, or all the other stuff we're going to talk about, we're a weekly show here on Spotify, Apple Podcast, on Thursdays, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, wherever you like to listen to your shows. Also, video versions on YouTube. We have a huge backlog of episodes, mostly covering weekly Nintendo news, but we have some evergreen content that you can still go and enjoy today, like the top 15 Nintendo games of all time. That one was pretty heated. The 25 best GameCube games, a 3D Zelda retrospective, a two-part Tears of the Kingdom spoiler cast, a Super Mario Odyssey and Wii U anniversary episodes, and a retrospective on the height of the Amiibo craze. So a ton of episodes that you can go and check out if you're just finding us. You can also find us on social media at ToadstoolBR on Twitter and send us an email, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. But that's enough. Let's get into it. We played Super Mario Wonder at Nintendo Live. We'll talk all about the show floor and stuff a little bit later. I want to start with the games themselves because it was a surprise to everybody that it was there. A very pleasant surprise. If you've been listening to the show, I've been saying for weeks it would just be ridiculous if this game was not at Nintendo Live. It made no sense to me, and of course it was there. So let's get some overall thoughts on Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Justin.
Yeah, I shared some surprise that it was there, and it wasn't just there. It's not like they shoved in like a kiosk and a controller. It was like maybe a quarter of the show floor. It had a giant presence there, and so I thought that was great, and I was excited. You and I both had some opportunities to play it, and I will say, as somebody who's been kind of like up and down on Mario Wonder, pretty much kind of continued that up and down trend for me. I thought it felt a lot like more 2D Mario, but it felt like really good 2D Mario, and it did some really fun stuff. We got to play through a number of levels. Honestly, listeners, we kind of played it at least 1.5 times.
Yes.
Because of some scheduling stuff going on. And so, we played it just sort of very straight co-op initially. And then when we had a second go on it, like Logan and I put on the hardcore Nintendo gamer hats, and we went after it. We flew through the levels. We were basically speedrunning it. I was very happy to see that a lot of the levels had different difficulty ratings. So we specifically went out of our way to find some of the more difficult levels, and it was great. It looked amazing. It did not look like something running on 8-year-old hardware. It was super fast, super smooth. It felt really, really good. And all those little moments that we've talked about from trailers where, there's like cool expressions when they run or when they jump or like cool animations, that was all over the place. That was everything. And there were a lot that we hadn't seen before where when you go through horizontal pipes and you're an elephant, you do this you have to kind of crunch down kind of small to get through it. You can pick up water in your trunk, and if you finish the level with that, you spray that at the end in this big rainbow. All the time with stuff like that, and it was so much fun. I had a great time with it. What do you think of it?
High level, I think this has a legitimate shot. Probably, I would say it's likely right now that this is going to be the best 2D Mario since the 90s. I think it is better than...
I think that's fair.
In just the 30 minutes I've played of this, I think it's better than any of the new Super Mario Brothers games. And I think those games are good. I'm not someone that thinks those games are terrible, but Mario Wonder is just... honestly, if they had called this Super Mario Brothers 5, you could have gotten away with it. Because 100%. In Japan, Mario World's called Mario 4, so that's where I'm getting the fourth one. But if you called it that, I would have believed you because it just has the feel of those classic games. Mario's back to when he jumps, it has a very 8-bit sounding boing, boing when you hit the jump button. So that just makes it feel very classic. And then just the charm is what stood out to me the most. Like you were talking about, Justin, just all the little animations that we've seen in the trailers. It just looks even better in motion. Nintendo games every game always looks better when you're actually playing it rather than watching a trailer that it's at 1080p on YouTube, compressed, whatever. Like,
It doesn't do it justice.
no, it looks gorgeous in motion. It has kind of a little bit of that a painterly art style in the backgrounds, which looks very, very nice.
Yeah.
I love how the characters look. We got to play as anybody we wanted. Because, yeah, the Mario Wonder Direct has also aired, which we haven't talked about on this show yet.
No.
All the playable characters we got to try out. We got
Huge cast of characters.
Yes, which is great. They all play the same except for Yoshi and Nabbit, who are easier. They don't take damage. Yoshi has the flutter jump, but those two characters can't use power-ups, so they don't have fire. They can't throw fireballs. They can't turn into elephants.
But on the flip side, the Yoshis can be ridden,
Yes.
And so they introduced some cool like wrinkles to it, which I think is neat. Yeah, and of the levels that we played, something that kind of struck me was how different and unique each level was, and how they all seemed to have some kind of unique twist, or they did something totally different. And I mentioned before that I feel like honestly the best like 2D platformer, at least of a like really big like AAA title of the last several years has been Rayman, and this had kind of a lot of that. We played this one level where they're I forget what they're called. Those like buffalo dudes. You know what I'm talking about,
Yep,
right?
they're new, yeah.
Yeah, so these brand new like charging buffalo guys that obviously you want to avoid them, but they can also like smash through certain obstacles. We also discovered pretty late in the level that you can ride on their backs, which is especially hilarious and presents you with opportunities to do things like jump off of one coming off of a ramp to grab the flag at the very, very top of the pole at the end. And so it's like everywhere we went was totally different, and we haven't even talked about seeing the wonder mechanic in action.
Yeah, we should talk about that. Real quick on those buffalo though, like it has
buffalo.
all the Nintendo puzzle charm you'd expect where you can just run through the level, but there are these coins that I think we asked the rep there and they said they were used at the store to buy some of the badges or extra lives or standees, which they talked about in the direct. There's 10-piece coins hidden in the level. That's the collectible this time around, in addition to the Wonder Seed. So there's kind of two things you're after in each level. And we were walking by at the start of the Buffalo level, and there is a 10-piece coin in between these unbreakable blocks. You know the ones, like the blocks that are like ascent up to the flagpole are made out of. And you walk a little bit further, and there's a buffalo there. And you basically have to like ground pound on this tree to lower it, and then get the buffalo to chase you back to break those blocks so you can grab that coin. And it's like, if you don't care about collecting them, you can just run past them. Or if you're a little bit more skilled player, you're a completionist, you have to figure out how to kind of guide that buffalo back where it needs to be. It's just so Nintendo, it's so Mario, and it's really good. I really liked all the levels we played. My favorite one was, again, another new enemy. We don't know the names of these things because they're brand new. They glossed over a lot of them in the direct, but there's these like little squirrels that run away from you, and they run the exact same speed as Mario. This is a level I did when I went back and played solo hands-on. You and I,
think you did this one without me. Yeah.
And basically these squirrels are running at the same speed as Mario, so you have to like try and trap them on a ledge that they can't run past because they don't jump. So you have to like just keep chasing them until you can basically box them in a corner and then grab whatever they're carrying. So that was another really cool just element in this thing. So, but let's talk about the Wonder Seeds. Justin, you can talk about your experience with those.
Yeah, so it something that we've since discovered that every level has these. There's one in every level, and they can do anything, which is a big part of what makes them so interesting. The first time you get to a level, you don't know what's going to happen when you hit it. So there's an early level where the pipe on the ground comes alive and starts crawling along like a worm, which is also great because when it inches up, that's your chance to jump off and grab some of those big coins and currencies and things like that. There was one that we did where we were going through this underground section. This was one of the higher difficulty rated levels.
It was a 3-star, and it looks like they go up to 5, but the highest in the demo was 3. So hardest level in the demo, but for being 3 out of 5 stars, pretty good challenge, I thought. Like, it wasn't super hard for us, but I thought it was a good level of difficulty.
Yeah, exactly. And when you hit the Wonder Seed, you do this vertical descent, and you're underground, and the ceiling starts coming down on top of you. And so it's a race to move your way downwards, and you have to either ground pound or use one of the new drill power-ups to go through certain crystal blocks in order to keep going down. It actually played a lot like the Quick Man stage from the original Mega Man, where you are basically being funneled. You have to go as fast as you can to get through the bottom to survive. And it was a scramble. It was tense. As two pretty seasoned Mario players, like we had to work at it, and that's really appealing to me. As much as I, enjoy like platformers and stuff, I do get a little bored when I'm just going through the motions. There's not a lot of challenge, and honestly, from what I saw here, I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, and there's a timer on top of the screen too to get to the Wonder Seed, so you have to go fast. It really seems like the Wonder Seed mechanic is for players like us. Like if you're a younger player or a less experienced player, just breeze through the level. Don't grab
like
that
normal
seed when you see it to trigger that, and you'll have a great time. But if you're us, you're going to want to go for those.
Yeah, if you're us and you want that one or two buffaloes to become a giant herd of buffaloes sweeping across the entire bottom of the level, go ahead and grab that seed.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I want to call out the new badge system really quick because
yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, there's a badge you can equip before each level, and it takes you to a menu screen of, I went back and counted, we were trying to remember how many there were. There's 24 slots on this badge screen, and in the demo, there's like 3 or 4 accessible to you, and there's orange badges, which change your move set. Like, instead of doing a wall jump where you jump diagonally off the wall like you're always used to, first you do a vertical jump and then a diagonal, so it's a way to get some extra height. And
it messed me up for a while when we equipped that because I'm so used to the arc of the traditional one.
Yeah, and there's actually a challenge level built around that badge specifically. Like that's actually how you unlock the badge, is by completing the level where it kind of tests your skills with it, which I thought was a cool little bite-sized differentiation from the more normal levels. There's the badge I liked using the most in the demo was where you hold R in the air and you whip out the parachute cap. We've seen some of that in the trailer, and you can like glide down. I thought that one was pretty helpful. And then there's some blue badges which we didn't equip, where it's like if you defeat enemies, you get extra coins. So kind of like status badges, I would say, that kind of just change the gameplay a little bit. Or like if you fall into a pit, you're fine one time. Things like that. So yeah, it's a cool system that they're adding to this, and it's another thing to complete is getting all the badges.
Yeah, and I'll be excited to see what all the variety is, and it does seem like there's a mix of ones that can make things a little bit easier. Like you can get the Yoshi Flutter Kick one for anybody. I saw that was one of the badges. And there's ones like that vertical jump one that are going to be useful for like Mario treasure hunters like us.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see, like, I follow the speedrun scene a little bit for Mario games. It'll be fun to see, like, what badge is the best for that. Like,
what's the meta badge to fly through everything?
Yeah, so pretty cool stuff there. But something I have to call out, we saw this in the reveal trailer for this game, but playing it in practice, it's just totally worth highlighting, and that is that you no longer bump into other players in multiplayer. New Super Mario Brothers, we and you hop all over people, you stomp on someone, they fall into the pit. It's annoying. It's not fun. It's frustrating, and that's gone. You're just all kind of on your own individual plane now, and that was like, I noticed it because there was a time I was trying to avoid you so we didn't get in each other's way in a tough platforming section, and you just don't have to do that. And it's a brilliant little change that I think a lot of people are going to like.
Yeah, it really enabled you and I to play it the way that we wanted to, which was pretty aggressively, like pushing the pace. And I noticed it because I tried to bump you into a pit and it didn't work.
So if you're a troll, you may be sad about this change.
Yeah, it's still a net upgrade.
Yes, absolutely. And let's talk about the new power-ups a little bit. You touched on Elephant a little bit. Now we know everyone's an elephant. And then we also played with the new drill power-up. So what do you think of these two?
They're cool. I still need to figure out some of the use cases for things like, when you're in the elephant, you can swing your trunk. When you're in the elephant, when you are an elephant, you can swing your trunk to take out enemies. You can smash through certain kinds of blocks. You can also, like I mentioned before, if you walk through like bodies of water, you'll just sort of like naturally like soak up the water. And so I don't know what all the use cases are for that. I'm sure there's going to be quite a few. But it's also kind of hilarious. The first time I saw one of us spray water at a Goomba and he like freaked out because he hated having the water in his face. Yeah. So it's like they're beautifully well designed. They're like painstakingly, you can see the effort that went into it. So I think that's really cool. Although I do think, between the two, I like the drill hat more.
Me too. The drill hat, like while Elephant feels like something completely new to this game, like Mario's never really fully transformed into an animal like that. Like it's almost like out of Odyssey, where when you throw the hat at something,
very much so.
But the drill feels right at home in 2D Mario. It feels like a natural extension of all the power-ups we've seen before, but it's really cool because if you get a high enough jump, you can just lock onto the ceiling and ride along the ceiling. And then there's cool collectible challenges like, we need to get in there, and you see there's a little drill tunnel, so you follow it to its end, and then you drill through and go and grab the collectible. So I really liked the drill too. And then your head is protected too from.
I was going to say the other thing I liked is we went through a level where there were like spinies that would jump off of the ceiling, and if you had a drill hat, they would just hit the drill and you'd be fine.
Yeah, so I really liked that. Elephant was fun too. You're very large as the elephant.
You are really big as an elephant.
Really big. Like 4 elephants on screen would be pretty wild. Yeah,
Thank goodness there's no collision for that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of interviews that were coming out about Mario Wonder with the preview event that they did last week. And basically the director said there was no deadline on this game. Like in the brainstorming phase, there was no deadline. We gave all of our creators as long as they wanted to come up with cool ideas. And they added a lot of new stuff to this game. Like shifting gears to the direct a little bit, there were so many new enemy types in there. Like totally brand new to Mario. And that's super exciting.
Yeah, and the Flower Kingdom it's really cool and interesting to visit a kind of mushroom adjacent kingdom, but with a little bit different aesthetic. And there's all these little flowers around that talk to you and seem to be at least a little bit sassy. I also really like what they're doing with some of the online functionality, which it's honestly, it almost reminds me a lot of some of the Wii U functionality where you would leave hand-drawn messages and things like that, but expanding it to a degree that is almost like Dark Soulsian, as crazy as that sounds, with things like the ghost mechanic where you can see or interact with ghosts. You can see other people doing their runs, and it's in real time if you're connected online. So you're not seeing something that's been saved you don't know what's going to happen because they're playing live. And with things like the co-op functionality, the way that you can drop signboards and buy signboards so that people can see what you've done.
It's a Strand game.
Race. Yeah, it is. This is the second Strand game.
Yep.
First there was Death Stranding. Now there's Mario Wonder. They've done a lot. I'm really impressed by the amount of just things that they put into here and how well thought out it seems to be.
Yeah, it still remains to be seen a little bit how online multiplayer works. I was a little unclear on how it all worked from the direct presentation because.
I can jump in there. So I've been doing a little bit of extra research on that, trying to read some of the interviews and stuff. And so the way I understand it is you have a room system. So you and I think it's you can be up to 12 people total in a room, and then 4 of you can go into a level together. You can combine that with couch co-op, but you can only have 2 people per console as part of that group. But there's a lot of versatility there and a lot of different ways that you can approach that. And so you can, if you have just a giant group of friends and you all want to see which group of friends can get through levels faster and things like that, you can do it. And I think reasonably skeptical a lot of times when I hear about online functionality on the Nintendo Switch. It's just not what it does best. But if the infrastructure works, this could be pretty cool, actually.
It worked really well in 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. I played that entire game online, and it worked really nice. So
yeah, and obviously, with things like Splatoon and so it's we know that they can do it from a technical standpoint. They just don't always do so. So obviously, this seems like a case where if you're going to spend the time and money to get it right, this would be it. But we'll see.
And if you're keeping a score at home, in our Nintendo Direct predictions episode a couple weeks ago, I said Mario Wonder would get online. So there's +1 for me. But a part of that prediction, too, was...
We need to get a coin sound for when that happens.
Yeah, maybe I'll throw that in. But we haven't heard about Amiibo support for this game, which is kind of baffling to me. I don't know. It seems like they're starting to phase it out, honestly. I think that we're really nearing the end. But
Which is weird given the fact that we literally just got a bunch of new Amiibo.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised it's not in a first-party Nintendo Mario game. I totally thought.
Where's my Elephant Mario Amiibo?
I know. Come on. I totally thought we were going to get that. Maybe we will. We don't know.
Maybe we will.
But something that we are getting is the Nintendo Switch OLED Mario Red Edition. That's coming October 6th for $349.99. That's 2 weeks before the game comes out on October 20th. It does not come bundled with the game. They haven't done that really this generation at all, except for their holiday bundles. But yeah, a new Switch OLED for you to buy less than a year before the new console comes out.
Not gonna do it. I'm not. I will resist.
But we saw it. We
Every
saw it in person. It had
yeah.
some coins on the inside by where the ports
Yeah,
are. What'd you
yeah,
think?
specifically, yeah, if you open up the back of the dock where you connect everything, there is the like in level 1, when you go down the pipe for the first time, there's like all those coins stacked up. So they have that as a fun little Easter egg. The console looks really good.
Looks nice.
It's I will say I don't think just being red is compelling enough for me to like want to buy a whole new console. But if you haven't upgraded to an OLED yet, it's a sharp looking unit.
Yeah. But if you haven't upgraded to an OLED yet, we're getting to the territory where I don't know if I would recommend that you do. So,
Yeah, I think there's a longer conversation to be had about that. I do
yeah.
think for as much as we've been talking about and as much as there's been reporting on like potential like new hardware, getting a bunch of new SKUs right now, it's a little weird. I have it on good authority that somebody that we know asked Doug Bowser about that.
Somebody did. Yeah, we'll get to that. But that's Mario Wonder, and I was really happy with it. Really happy we got to play it. I played it 3 times. I played it with you. I went back in line and I played it alone, and then I went back in line to play it alone again. But then they paired me up with 2 other people that were also solo riders. So I played with them, and I kind of went at their pace to see how they played it, and it was fun. They had a good time. So yeah, I think that this is going to be a good one. This is
It's gonna be good.
yeah, it's a really, really cool game we're getting this fall. So let's talk about a different game that's coming out this fall. That is Detective Pikachu Returns, which is also coming out on October 6th. That's the same day as this Mario Red hardware bundle and a ton of other hardware we'll talk about a little bit later. There's so much going on this week. It is a huge week in the boardroom. But I got to go to the Pokemon Company and play Detective Pikachu Returns last week, kind of the day before Nintendo Live and PAX kicked off. I was invited to go do this. My preview is up on IGN. I should mention that's who I did it for. So I have a written preview on IGN.com and a video preview, which you can watch on the site or on YouTube. And I thought it was cute. It's, I think first I'll just say visually it looks a little bit rough, which I kind of think everybody knew that it would from the trailers we've seen. It looks like, to me, it looks closer to a 3DS game than a Switch game, which is not where you want to be this far into the Switch's life cycle.
Now, for context, Logan, can you tell us about your experience with the previous Detective Pikachu?
Yes, I reviewed Detective Pikachu back in the day. I reviewed it for NintendoWire.com. I was handed that review because I'm the Ace Attorney guy. I love mystery games,
Right.
and I love Professor Layton, so this kind of seemed like Nintendo's kid-friendly play at that. I think I gave it a 6.8 at the time. I thought it was okay. I thought that it was really charming, like extremely charming, the writing, and Detective Pikachu is hilarious as a character, and his little voice segments, they're laugh out loud funny. But the mystery was so simple, and there's so much text to click through that I'm like, who is this for? Because it's a lot of reading for a kid to be patient enough to sit through and understand, but it's so simple that I don't know if an older gamer would really get into it. So Pokemon fans, I think, would love it. I think they largely did, but outside of that, I didn't really see the appeal for many people. I'm thinking the same about this game so far, because I got to play for about 30 minutes. I saw a little intro video that kind of introduced, like, here's the backstory from the first game that you need to know if you haven't played it. Basically, it's Tim Goodman and Detective Pikachu are still on the search for Tim's missing father and Detective Pikachu's missing partner, Harry Goodman. So that's the only plot thread carrying over from the first game you need to care about. So, I mean, yeah, it came out like 5 years ago. So I don't know how many people really played that are or going to remember what happened. I barely remember what happened, and I reviewed the thing. So after that, it throws you into the middle of this gameplay section where there's been this break-in at this mansion, and you need to figure out what Pokemon or person is responsible. So you walk around. Tim can talk to humans. Detective Pikachu can talk to Pokemon, and they work together to solve the mystery. The best part about the first game was just seeing how Pokemon interacted with the world in a different way than in the RPGs. Like a Machop that works for a construction company or something like that. Like
Right.
Things like that. And that is still kind of the funniest and most charming thing about this game. And Detective Pikachu is still hilarious. There's a moment where he needs to climb on this Growlithe and he can't get on it. So he's like, could you please sit down for a second? And then he like scampers up on its back and it's super cute. But yeah, it's visually kind of rough. it's still clicking through a lot of text. So it really seems pretty similar to the first one in most ways.
So, at least based on your preview, do you feel like it's really just for fans of Detective Pikachu?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, yeah, it's tough. I got to play so little of it. It's hard to know for a game that's so story heavy.
For just a 30-minute slice.
Yeah.
So I haven't played the first one, but I did see the movie, and I love the movie. Do you think that's a sufficient jumping off point to get into this and at least have an idea for what I'm doing?
That is what's really interesting about this, is because the movie tells you what happened to Harry Goodman. It answers that question.
Your description made me like, wait a minute. Hold on.
But the game does not. The game leaves off, and it's still a bit of a mystery, and it's actually kind of pointing in a different direction than the movie.
So it might resolve differently.
So I interviewed the creative director of this game, which is also on IGN, and I asked, like, was the sequel inspired by the events of the movie at all? And he told me that he went to London and saw it being filmed and talked with some of the writers on the movie and kind of decided what direction to take the story based on that. I don't know what that means.
What does that mean?
Yeah. I think I'd be surprised and disappointed if it ended in the same way. Because I guarantee you anyone that's going to play this has seen the movie. There's no one that's going to pick this. Probably it could sell better than the first one because the movie came out in between the two games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see about that. Because that would be kind of weird if there's this whole extra sequel you play to get to the same place that the movie left off. So I don't know about that. But yeah, it is really cute. I think if you like the first one, you'll really like this one. There's points where Detective Pikachu splits up from Tim. Like I said, when you're riding on the Growlithe, you leave Tim behind. So it's just Pikachu riding on this Pokemon around town, and it's funny to see how the interactions change, because like you'll try to talk to a human, and humans can't understand him. So they're just like, oh, a Pikachu wearing a hat, so cute. And he's like, where were you last night? What were you doing at 6 p.m.? And yeah, it's funny. Like they play with those kind of interactions a lot. There's little side quests too, like this one kid really wants a Pokemon to play soccer with him, so you go and find the Scorbunny evolution, whose name I'm forgetting. It's the middle evolution on that chain, who is kicking around a soccer ball, and you're like, oh, you want to go play soccer with this kid? And it's a little side quest you complete. So yeah, it's very like cozy, very kid-friendly. I think that, honestly, this could be a game that you could help teach your kid how to read. Like, seriously. I played Animal Crossing when I was learning how to read, and there's a lot of reading in that game, and I see this
Nintendo games are great for that. My son literally learned how to read playing Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, because Nintendo games don't have a lot of voice acting. It's a lot of text. Yeah, so I think that's honestly a good recommendation. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it all pans out, but visually I was hoping for more. It doesn't run bad like Scarlet and Violet did, but it just looks flat. It just looks simple. Like, I wouldn't even say bad. It's just like, looks like a 3DS game. So, yeah, that's Detective Pikachu Returns. I took a picture with Detective Pikachu, a mascot.
Ooh, celebrity picture. Yeah. All right, let's go.
I know. They kept telling me at the preview, they're like, we have a celebrity guest. Stick around.
Got a big star.
Yeah, and I was like, is it Tim Goodman? I joked, and they said it wasn't. Yeah, okay. But that was a lot of fun to get to go and check that game out, especially as someone who loves mystery games like that. I think one thing I should mention that I think is really fascinating is story jump mode, which I can't recall a game I've really ever seen this. You can skip around to whatever part of the story you want before you've completed the game.
Oh, whoa.
So you could just jump to the end. So I could buy this game on October 6th and say, okay, is Harry Goodman the same as it was in the movie? I could find out like within 10 minutes in story jump mode. And I asked them about it, and they said like some people like to watch movie on 2x speed. Some people like to skip to the end to see what happens and then watch it through and see how it gets there. And so then I asked, like, so is it like if you bought a detective novel and then you read the last chapter first and then you read it all the way through? And he said that, yeah, it's exactly like that. So it's interesting.
Interesting idea.
Yeah. Could you think of anything that's ever really done that before? Because I can't.
No, not at all. But you're right. Like I know of people who have done like things like that.
Yeah.
Or and there is, especially in things like mysteries and detective novels, there is a certain appeal in reading it with the context of that, because it does change a lot of like how you interpret and the meaning of a lot of things. That said, I don't see myself doing that if I pick up Detective Pikachu. I like being along for the twists and turns.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's out October 6th. Go check out my preview on IGN. It's cool. We played 2 Nintendo games ahead of release this week.
That's pretty darn cool.
Before. Yeah. We also walked the show floor at Nintendo Live, which was a ton of fun. This was the event at the Seattle Convention Center this weekend. We've been talking about it for months, and now it's come and gone. It coincided with PAX West, and Nintendo Live took up half of the Arch Convention Center, so the old convention center in Seattle, if you're familiar at all. And yeah, we'll just start general and then kind of zoom in on some specifics. What did you think of Nintendo Live?
It did not disappoint. It was honestly a much bigger footprint than I expected. Like you said, it took up half of what was effectively the entire convention floor, like the expo floor, historically for PAX. So it was a really big area, and it was filled with different games, murals, props, mascots, the big concert area, the Mario Dojo. It was really, really well done. I honestly believe that this is as close as you can get to like the Super Nintendo World like theme park without going there yourself. And it was bright, it was colorful, it was fun. There was great photo opportunities. There was really cool things to see. It seemed to be especially good for people bringing families because of things like the mascots and like the content that they were showing. I loved it. I had an awesome time.
Okay, I'm pretty sure on this, but you didn't have to buy a ticket if you were not a member of the press, right? Or did it cost money?
No, but so the way that it worked is there were like 2 non-press ways to get entries. We're passing around it because we're press. If you could either go through your Nintendo, through your My Nintendo, and you sign up for a raffle. Basically, you enter yourself into it, and they picked X number of people who got passes. And then they did a similar one to people who had purchased passes. So if you were coming to PAX, you had like 2 opportunities to do that. And it's like there was quite a bit of people there. So it seemed like if you wanted in, there was a pretty decent chance because of it ran for 4 days and ran all hours of the day. A lot of people got a chance to see it, which is cool.
It is pretty incredible to me. This was one of my takeaways, that you didn't have to buy a ticket for this. Like, you had to sign up for a ticket, but I can't think of many other entertainment companies that would put on something of this scale and then not charge a fortune for it. Like, if Disney put something on like this, that's like $60 at the door. Like,
I was thinking, but you'd be spending $100 a head.
Yeah, like not to give Nintendo too much credit. Obviously, they benefit from this in huge ways, like building loyal consumers, and honestly, it's game advertisement. Like, if you go to this thing, you don't have Pikmin 4, you try it, you might buy it. So, like, there's huge financial benefits for them for doing this, but still, to not charge for this thing, and how fun it would be to take a family of 4 or 5 to this thing. Like, I was impressed with that. That was a really cool move, I thought. And yeah, I thought the event was amazing. You likened it to Super Nintendo World. I went there this year. I'll be honest, I liked Nintendo Live more. I thought,
wow,
yeah, I really did, because I mean, Super Nintendo World is the opposite of what I just said. It is a very expensive theme park with very long lines, and it's a theme park with a Nintendo spin. Nintendo Live felt very much like this is Nintendo's unique thing, 100%, and I just really liked that for it. I think that the photo ops were cool. You got a little stamp booklet. If you could track them all down, you could play demos of games. There were tournaments every day. It was like Kart, Smash, Splatoon across the 4 different days for which tournament they were hosting. Live concerts. Like, I was a little skeptical about this thing. For us, as press going to this event, I'm like, is this really just for families who aren't super hardcore into Nintendo? And then with Mario Wonder there was something for every level of a Nintendo fan here. I thought it was incredible.
Well, not only that, but some of the things that they had there were awesome. Like they had this giant Lego animatronic Bowser.
Yep, like the 12-foot tall one. Yep.
Yeah, it was enormous, but it moved. They had this really great retro living room set that you could get your picture taken in, which I absolutely did because it absolutely looked like my living room when I was a kid, because I'm retro years old. I loved the prop gallery. They had like full-size mock-ups of things like the Master Sword, of Captain Falcon's helmet, of Fox McCloud's helmet. And if that was a full-size, that Fox has a giant head.
He's huge! Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, and then things like they had this amazing like um, mural's not the right word because it's not painted on, but this like display of Pokemon where on one side of it it had the entire like Pokemon like timeline, and on the other side of it they had, and you pointed this out to me, they had every Pokemon game, and in front of it in a like kind of glass case there was the console, copies of each version of the game, and then a picture of the starters on each one, and they had it for every single Pokemon game.
Yeah.
And so like we spent some time looking at that. I am not going to let us get through this section though without talking about Mario Dojo a little bit.
Yeah, we have to.
Oh, for sure. In particular, I'm gonna humble brag on my co-host here. So Mario Dojo, you could sign up. They did them all day, every day, and it was a competition, and it was a multi-phase competition. Basically, you stand in line, and then a large group of people got to play Mario Kart. You did 2 races. Whoever took first place in each of the 2 races would advance. And if somebody won both times, then they would like grab a second place person. Then you would have another competition with a bunch of other winners in Mario Maker. And then whoever won that would be one of 4 contestants who would go up on the main stage with the announcers, with the giant screen playing some random Mario game in a winner takes all. And to the surprise of nobody, Logan absolutely kicked butt in this competition. You did it a couple of times. You and I did it together once. You took first place in the first race, and then we tried to get me in first place in the second place.
Yeah.
And I led the entire race, bell to bell. And then you know those videos where somebody just gets hit by 87 things right at the finish line? Yeah, that was me. And then you went on to the,
because I was playing like meat shield to Justin in race 2. We were on Mario Circuit, the one from Mario Kart 8, and I was just tailing him the whole time. I had 2 shells as protection in case anyone came up, and this kid, probably 7 or 8 years old, was like calculating his move. He waited till the very end. I was in my hang glider. Justin was on the ground. That was our mistake, was splitting up, and he fires just the most beautiful green shell shot I've ever seen. It hits him right at the finish line. He flies by and wins the race.
That's what's amazing about it, is not only did he sniped me with a green shell, and he timed it perfectly. It was an incredible shot. I couldn't even be mad. I was like, cool, you deserve to advance. That's fine. And then you won the Mario Maker round handily. Advanced to the main stage, and there were 4 of you, and the game was Smash. And I was like a proud papa. I was in the crowd beaming. I have some great pictures of Logan, and it was for KOs, and it went to sudden death. You and the other dude for victory, and your Bowser unfortunately fell. But it was so cool. It was so much fun to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I loved how they put that together. Like, this was something I've been wondering about going into Nintendo Live was, well, what's the incentive to 50 million people own Mario Kart 8? If you're coming to Nintendo Live, you have Mario Kart 8. So besides the tournament, which was for pretty hardcore people, what's going to be the fun of playing Mario Kart at this thing? And the Mario Dojo was a fun, casual, like stress-free, if you lose, you can just get back in line and go again. And a really smart way to repurpose these old games. And yeah, I just loved it. They had announcers on the big stage. You sat in front of this big warp pipe seat, they were like broadcasting it on their socials. It was very cool.
The contestants.
Yeah,
it was straight up an esport, and yeah, it was so much fun just to sit down with a bunch of like-minded Nintendo fan strangers. Just to play some Mario Kart. It's funny, you talk about like what's the 50 million people have this game. You and I both had this game for a long time. We both played a lot of games of this. We still played a decent amount of Mario Kart at Nintendo Live, especially you.
Yeah, so that was really cool, and I loved on the main stage. Like, it was random what game you got, like Justin was mentioning, and when the Smash box art appeared, like the little group of the 4 of us kind of popped off a little bit. We were excited that it was going to be Smash Bros. But the funniest part of it was, I'm not going to let them get a pass on this. I have to mention this. My controller had drift on stage in the finale of Nintendo Live Mario Dojo. And I thought the irony was not lost on me. Like, the biggest thing you can criticize Nintendo of this generation is their controller durability. And then if this massive multi-million-dollar event they're putting on, I sit down and my Pro controller, not even a Joy-Con, is drifting. And I call them over and I'm like, yeah, this has drift. You don't want people playing on this all day. And before my match, they change it out. It's like a 5-minute delay. People are
It
like,
took
what
a
is
while.
going on? But
Those poor announcers had to vamp for the entire time.
but they got a new one, and they were like very appreciative. They're like, thanks so much for calling out that had drift. And then I lost anyways with the fresh controller. But
Yeah.
well, it was a great
It
time.
was close. It was real close.
Yeah. The other huge highlight we have to talk about is
The best part.
The something we got into on the last day. They held it all 4 days, but they had the Super Mario Super Big Band in the afternoon, which Justin and I caught a little bit of on the first day of Nintendo Live.
Super
Very
cool. Super fun. They had Mario on the screen behind him while a effectively swing band played the songs in tune with it. Extremely fun.
Yeah, really awesome songs choice too. Like stuff from 3D World was my favorite. I've always loved the main theme from that game they were playing. Stuff from Mario 64, so very cool. But then in the mornings was the Legend of Zelda Nintendo Live Symphony. And Justin, I think this was our highlights of the entire weekend. Was going to this together?
Yeah. Quite possibly. So, an entire orchestra playing songs and medleys from various Zelda games. They did the same thing where they had the synced up video in back. They played it from a large selection of different Zelda titles. They had beautiful lighting above it that would change color, matching the mood. And so from your blues and your greens with Zelda and with Link, and then you had your like reds and burgundies and purples with like Ganon and Ganondorf. I'll be honest. Like I'm usually a bit of an emotional void. Like this got me right in the feels real hard the entire time.
Yeah, I mean the tunes they picked, obviously, both you and I and any big Zelda fan just knows every note of them. We know exactly what's coming next. But to hear it in that setting, I've always been a big musical guy. I played in band in high school and college, almost minored in music. Yep. And like just hearing it, I've always wanted to see the Zelda Symphony. They did it for the 25th anniversary. I missed it. They did like a one-off a few years ago. Couldn't go. And so to get to see this was so amazing and honestly breathtaking. Like they just sounded incredible.
Did you have a favorite song or a favorite part from the performance?
Probably. Well, I love the Tears of the Kingdom main theme. They opened the concert with that.
Yeah,
so that was a great one. But I think the highlight, probably for both of us, was the 2017 Switch presentation, Breath of the Wild trailer that people still hail as the greatest trailer of all time.
I was gonna say, so just for some context, because this will shock you, but Logan and I talk about Zelda sometimes, even not on the podcast.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I told him is I think that the launch trailer for Breath of the Wild is the greatest trailer ever made. And so we do the concert, and most of the way through the concert, they do the entire trailer but live performance of it, and it is breathtaking. It's incredible. And as you can just hear the decay in the air of the last notes, I just lean over to Logan. I'm like, yeah, that's the best trailer of all time.
Yeah, I like the Tears of the Kingdom one more. They're so similar, but
they
didn't play that whole one. But I was happy that we got the whole Tears of the Kingdom theme. Other things they played Kakariko Village theme from Ocarina of Time. They played Hyrule Castle from Link to the Past. They played a Link's Awakening medley, Ballad of the Windfish, all that stuff. They played the main theme to Legend of Zelda at the end,
which was great. They also did a great version of the opening from A Link to the Past, including the appearance of the Triforce from the opening credits. It was a fantastic arrangement with some just spectacular musicians. And even in a room that isn't built for acoustics, it sounded amazing.
Yeah, it did. It sounded really nice. I was a little concerned because it's just on the show floor. It's not in a separate theater. It's just
it's in a corner of a rectangular room.
Yeah, they did a very nice job. And they also played the Ballad of the Goddess from Skyward Sword and Zelda's Lullaby.
Yeah, in fact, they even set it up as to sort of let the crowd know to listen for the relationship between the songs, and that it's intended to reflect the relationship between Zelda and Hylia. Just. Oh, they knew the assignment.
And I noticed this about halfway through the concert, and then I told Justin afterwards. They did only pick songs from games available on Nintendo Switch. So there was no Wind Waker, no Twilight Princess, No Link Between Worlds. Like, it was either like Skyward Sword HD, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, or all the various games on Nintendo Switch Online were the only ones that they picked from, which I thought was a little bit funny. Like, that it's like only ones that you can play on the modern console. Would have loved to see The Great Sea or Midna's Lament or something like that.
I was saying Midna's Lament was a big miss, and one that they could have done that they didn't. What I consider to be the single best piece of Zelda music is Gerudo Valley. That didn't make an appearance. Yeah. Like it's a very different like flamenco arrangement. I also understand that frankly you need some like very specific parts to do just that one song that you wouldn't use anywhere else. So I don't blame them. I just love that song a lot.
They did it for the 25th anniversary one, so it's on YouTube. You can go watch it. It sounds great. Yeah.
What am I even doing here?
Cool. But that was just amazing, and just all of it was so cool. The Mario Wonder display with the new statues for all those characters. We put a picture on Twitter at Toadstool BR of us coming out of the warp pipes. Yep. Yeah, it was just an awesome event. They had that Tears of the Kingdom statue that they've been lugging around the world.
Yep, the one they had at PAX East.
Yes, I was so happy to see it in person. I got a picture with it. But yeah, I thought it was a big win. Like, I really enjoyed my time at PAX. I thought I would spend more time at PAX, but I kept getting drawn back to Nintendo Live, and it's just...
you went every day.
I did go every day. Yeah, this is not a surprise to anyone listening to this.
Shocker.
I love games. I've been covering games for years at this point, but obviously Nintendo is what I'm always drawn to the most. And there was just this one moment that I had at Nintendo Live where I just couldn't stop, just the biggest grin on my face. I spent the morning at PAX going hands-on with some stuff, walking around, all these very serious booths, like Tekken 8 is here, and it's huge. They got Persona, they got all this stuff. And all hands-on controllers, all these demos. Then I walk into Nintendo Live, and the first thing I see is 100 people just going hoo ha with their smartphones because they're playing Everybody Wants to Switch. They're playing the Alien game where you have to call in the alien from his spaceship. It's just silly. It's ridiculous. It's so Nintendo, and it was awesome.
The one more thing I want to point out, and if you're listening, I'll describe it to you, is right now Logan is wearing one of the shirts from Nintendo Live, and it is this fantastic shirt. It says Nintendo Live 2023 at the bottom, and it has a 8-bit Seattle skyline complete with the Space Needle. It looks fantastic. I wasn't willing to wait in line long enough to buy one, but it's because it was a huge line for the merch. But they did have a fantastic merch booth there too.
Yeah, like 2-hour wait at some points during the weekend.
Yeah.
To buy.
Yeah, I did. I was tempted to wait for this like long sleeve Tears of the Kingdom jersey, a shirt that had the like pattern on the right arm.
Yeah, that would have been a good one. But most of the stuff you can get online, also including that one. I think it was just the Nintendo Live stuff you can't. But yeah, I love that. I mean, Nintendo. We're both from the Seattle area. We're in a Mariners hat right now. We talk about it all the time. So to have a Nintendo Seattle shirt, that's pretty sick.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's cool. But yeah, I totally see the value of Nintendo Live after being kind of skeptical of it going in. It was really cool. And another really cool part for me was I got to talk to Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser. Again, this was for IGN. The interview.
Your old friend, your old baseball buddy.
Yes, we talked about that, by the way. He's a huge Mariners fan, I did learn. Which is very cool. But
bring him on the show.
This interview is up on IGN right now, went up earlier this week. And of course, he didn't drop any huge juicy news things. Nothing enormous comes out of these very curated interviews with high up executives like this. But it was fascinating to talk to him. And I think one of my favorite parts from the interview was something he said in his opening remarks, which is just that he called 2023 a banner year for Nintendo. And Nintendo is just generally very humble and soft-spoken about themselves. And they have been killing it this year with Nintendo World, Nintendo Live, Tears of the Kingdom, the Mario Brothers movie. And so to just hear them recognize that was, I don't know, I almost liked hearing that in a way because they usually don't talk about themselves like that.
Yeah, imagine having a year where one of the highest grossing animated movies of all time and maybe the best video game of all time is just like a couple of bullet points on what you've done that year. I thought I read it. Of course, I thought it was a great interview. In particular, it did really seem to signal that this version of Nintendo that we've seen over the last couple of years, where they are expanding into other types of media, is something that they are feeling really successful at, and something that they are going to continue to do.
Yeah, and this dates back over a decade at this point. Remember, Satoru Iwata talked about the quality of life initiatives they were going to do. That never really came to fruition. Their foray into health and wellness.
Still waiting on my vitality sensor.
Yeah, instead, they really pivoted into entertainment. And we knew this probably, I think it was 2015 or 16, when they announced the Universal deal to build a theme park. That was a long time ago now. And now here we are 8 years later, we're seeing it all. We're seeing the movies with Universal. We're seeing the theme parks. And now they're putting on their own event like Nintendo Live. Like, they're doing the thing. And I think a lot of Nintendo... Yeah. I think a lot of Nintendo fans were probably worried, like, oh, is gaming, like, going to take a backseat? And no, they are building this stuff around their gaming business. And they're just handling it in a really smart, calculated way. And I might say there's never been a better time to be a Nintendo fan than right now.
It's a pretty good spot, yeah, and like not to keep stealing the thunder from your interview, but like he even talks about that halo effect that these other things have had in service of gaming, which I think is very telling about like what the ultimate objectives are here.
There's one question I wish I'd asked him after that one. I wish I'd asked him about how weird the Peach game announcement was, but I don't think he would have answered it.
It's still a weird one. Like even though we know it's out relatively soonish, we know nothing about it. It doesn't even have a name.
Yeah, I wish I'd asked about that. I'm sure he wouldn't have said anything.
Yeah,
he would have dodged.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it will just be Untitled Peach Game.
Yeah, maybe so. But I did, of course, have to ask, where are we in the Switch's life cycle? And he just says, we are where you said we are. Because earlier in the interview, I said it was almost 7 years old. So that's all he would say about that. But kind of a quote I will read here is he said, I've stopped counting years that the Switch has been out. When we talked about this, when we launched Nintendo Switch, we really did believe this is a very differentiated model and device that people could play at home like a console, take on the go like a handheld, and there's a variety of different gameplay experiences somewhere in between. It's maintained that point of differentiation over the years quite nicely, and here's the part I really like. The other way I look at this is every year there are millions of households that have children reaching the age of 6 or 7 or 8, and they're making choices about how they want to engage their family in gaming and what platform they want to bring their family in with. And I really believe Nintendo positions itself very well because of that versatility of the device and of equal importance. So, yeah, I mean, the Switch just keeps selling every year. I think it's going to have a huge holiday season. It's going to be huge this year for kids who saw the Mario movie.
Oh yeah, because that halo effect is going to continue, and I hadn't thought about this before, but I think his point that the fact that it is such a unique piece of hardware probably has a lot to do with why its lifespan is so long. If it was just another box that played games like its competitors, then differences from like a hardware standpoint would be a lot more obvious. Whereas now, like just because of its portability, because of the Joy-Cons and things like that, it's you know, the visuals are just part of the package, and they're not necessarily the most important part. And so, like, you can get a lot of mileage out of that.
And I know we complain all the time about no voice chat and limited online play, but these are things that are pluses to parents who are buying consoles for their young children. And yeah, I think that they do position themselves nicely in that. But Doug was a very nice man. He was very nice to talk to, and it was cool to have that opportunity and chat with him for a bit. He also did talk about more holiday bundles that are coming out. Also on October 6th, the Mario Kart 8 bundle's back. The same one they've had the last, 5 years with Mario Kart 8.
So you, that one person who doesn't have it, this is your opportunity.
Yep, exactly. Mario Kart 8, the base Nintendo Switch, and 3 months of Switch Online. And then 2 new bundles. They've slapped some Leaf decals on the turquoise and the coral Switch lights, and they're bundling it with Animal Crossing New Horizons. The coral one is at Target, and the turquoise one is at Walmart. So, I don't know. You could look at this a couple of ways. You could look at this, man, a lot of SKUs still, or you could look at it as, we painted our OLEDs red, we slapped the leaves on the lights.
Just emptying the warehouse.
And we are getting ready to produce the next thing. I think that's what this says.
I certainly hope it's the latter.
Yes. I think it is. I think we're at that point where they're clearing house, slapping those.
You got boxes full of them, putting stickers on, coloring them in with markers.
Yep. But that was Nintendo Live. There was also PAX West. Nothing as Nintendo newsy at PAX West, but we still had some Nintendo things to talk about, like seeing Reggie Fils-Aimé speak. This was on the first main day of PAX West. He did it at the main stage. He was the keynote speaker. And it was cool to see Reggie in person, but I think Justin and I both discussed he brought the wrong speech for the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not a criticism of Reggie. The speech that he had prepared was a lot to do with like succeeding in business and how he's been so successful. Which again, he has been exceptionally successful, and that is and that is in many ways like despite an upbringing as like a poor kid in Brooklyn and somebody whose face doesn't match that of all the other executives, and so he does have a really interesting and inspiring story, and it's a cool story to hear. But a lot of this was not even necessarily about that. It was just about what makes somebody successful in business, which isn't what like the PAX crowd I think necessarily wants to hear. And like he's extremely charismatic, very interesting. I had a chance to interview him at PAX last year. He's great to talk to, but his keynote was at its best at the end when he finished with that and they transitioned to a Q&A, and then he was on point and snappy with answers about all sorts of questions, largely avoiding questions about Mother. But like I wish that had been what it was the whole time, was just a Q&A, because like Reggie doesn't need prepared talking points in order to be an incredibly engaging person. If anything, when we get to see him like unleashed and in the wild, he dominates the room.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like the most fascinating parts were when he was telling stories. I don't even just mean Nintendo stories, just about anything.
Just stories. Yeah.
A lot of it was like he had this chart he kept referring to about like the 5 keys to his
big circle chart. Yeah.
Plan. And I was like, oh man. Like, yeah, it was some people, I felt bad. Like some people were walking out or nodding off, and it's like, but it was cool to see him. Cool they showed up for PAX, and yeah. Now I've crossed off. I've seen him in person now. Yeah, and I've seen Sakurai, and now I've talked to Doug. Like, yeah, we're crossing off. So
between you and I, we've interviewed the last 2 Nintendo of America presidents.
Yeah, and you're going to be the next one. So I've already.
I'm going to be the next Nintendo of America president.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, get ready. But on the show floor, we also got to play some games. Specifically, one game that is very reminiscent of another Nintendo franchise. That's Big Boy Boxing, which, Justin, you actually played a little more than I did.
I'm glad you brought that one up. Yeah, so Big Boy Boxing is a very much a Super Punch-Out like, and I say Super Punch-Out specifically because of the art style. It has a cool pixely graphic art style. It has like comically larger than life characters. I did a preview of the best things I saw at PAX, and Big Boy Boxing made that list. Is on digitaltrends.com. It's the inspiration was Super Punch Out and Tom and Jerry, which I think is readily apparent. Yeah, so totally. I will say the game is hard as heck. You get knocked out after 3 hits, so you have to like very quickly figure out exactly how to defend various punches, the exact timing of it, what the tells are for them. But I will say, when you do, and you knock somebody out, you can get a crowd cheering around you if you're on the show floor, which I found out. Nice. And I fought this young lady in a pink dress with a giant like mallet, very Looney Tunes style. I fought what I'm pretty sure was 3 kids in a trench coat. So I'm a little skeptical about the licensing board behind these fights. Yeah. I fought a dude who billed himself as, I want to say, 5,000 pounds, but was only 3,500, so he had to suck all the water out of a pool, and then he was too like waterlogged to actually punch. But he fell over on me and crushed me. Nice. It was hilarious. It was slick. It was fun. I really like it. I can't wait till it eventually releases.
What's it coming out on? Do you know?
I don't know what all consoles it comes out on. Yeah, it's on PC. There is a demo on Steam that you can play. You don't get to fight any of the fighters themselves. That was just a PAX exclusive demo. But you get to like go through the like initial training sequence, and actually no, you do get to fight a dude who hopped out of a punching bag. And so nice. And so you do get to go through the tutorial. Yeah, it's cool. It's another dead Nintendo series we're seeing indie devs bring back. We had Aaron McDevitt on the show last year to talk about Aero GPX, which is bringing F-Zero back. There's my goodness, hold on, we're gonna talk about that. Okay, should we? We're gonna talk about it right now. All right. Okay, cool. Thank God. Yeah, I got to play F-Zero GX in the like console free play room. Just people bring setups. You can check out games. Yeah, exactly. So at PAX, they always do this. They have an entire room dedicated to console free play. They have myriad consoles that you can play, and they bring games. You can check check them out, and just spend a bunch of time gaming. There was one half of the entire room was dedicated to Steel Battalion, which was really fun. We got to chat with them for a while. It's got that giant $300 controller. If you pilot a big mech using that, is insanely complicated. There's an eject button, if you die and you don't hit that, it literally deletes your save and deletes your pilot.
I knew very little about that game.
Yeah, it is very hardcore.
Yeah.
But Logan, of course, saw one of the screens had F-Zero GX, but with a bit of a unique twist on it.
It did. They were playing F-Zero GX with Donkey Kong bongos, the controller for Donkey Konga and Donkey Kong Jungle Beat from the GameCube. They had that hooked up and they had it wired. So I learned that there's actually 4 buttons. There's a top button and a bottom button on each the left and right bongo that's plugged into the GameCube. And they had the bottom right button was accelerate, and then the top left was turn, the bottom left was brake, and then the top right wasn't turn, it was side swipe. So you couldn't turn both directions. You had to either turn left or side swipe right. And they had a little paper sheet of all the people that had completed the level that day and what their times were. And this dude was like, yeah, sit down and try it. And on my 3rd attempt, I did beat the race. I was one of the slower times on the board, but it was super fun.
But okay, you say a list of all the names that completed. It was a very short list.
Yeah, it was
of
8 or 9 names.
Who managed to beat this level. And at one point, we couldn't figure out how to boost. So then I'm behind Logan, just clapping my hands, wondering if that makes him boost.
Yeah, because there's the microphone in the Donkey Kong bongos where you could clap in Jungle Beat.
It was insanity. It was so funny and so much fun to watch. And I will say, Logan has memorized that course completely. He knew exactly what was coming the whole time. So that was kind of cool to watch. Oh, and speaking of classic games that we played back in the day, you also absolutely crushed it on a Monkey Ball arcade cabinet.
Yeah, that was super fun. They had a original Monkey Ball arcade where the joystick is a banana, which is very fitting, and some of the levels are actually harder than they are in the console version. They made some tweaks to make them a little easier when it came to GameCube, and yeah, it was tough, but a small crowd started to gather and was watching me play Monkey Ball, and yeah, that was just the best day. That day where we had our tour,
that was a fun day.
I went on stage to play Smash, and yeah, it was great. PAX was a ton of fun getting to go, and I just love that more grassroots feel of it, because there's the very corporate feeling. I mean, Nintendo Live, huge, big flashing lights, huge booths, and PAX is the same way. So to go upstairs and just have CRT TVs and talking to the guy for Steel Battalion for 10 minutes, it's an awesome con to go to just experience all sides of this nerdiness. I was talking about Monkey Ball to someone, they're like, oh yeah, man, expert level 13 in Super Monkey Ball is so hard. And I knew exactly what level they were talking about. I've never met anyone that knows the specific levels in Monkey Ball. So yeah, it was awesome.
I will say, things like this are fun because you're surrounded by thousands of like-minded individuals, and so as much as you can nerd out about something, there are people there who will just join in that with you, and that is a lot of what makes it so enjoyable.
Ton of Zelda cosplay. It was by far the most, I think, of what I saw. My favorite was we saw an Addison holding the sign, the Hudson Construction sign that people were taking pictures with outside. There was an amazing Purah cosplay I saw on the final day. I wish I'd taken a picture. It was incredibly detailed. The hair angle was just right. And a lot of links to Zelda.
It was just Purah in real life. It was incredible.
It was her. Yeah. Anything else you want to highlight from either event?
Yeah, so I'm going to call out a couple of games that I saw on the show floor that are available on Switch that I think are really worth checking out. And they're one's a pretty big indie title, one's just a really big title. I played Persona 5 Tactica, which does a good job of continuing the ultra stylish Persona 5 look, but as a tactics game, and it's got a really easy to follow grid where you can see how many steps you can take. It's very clear the entire time when you're in line of fire from other characters. You can set up sort of this triangle formation around enemies and do, I think they call it triple threat. It's their version of an all-out attack. So that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's currently out is the game 30XX, which is a sequel to 20XX, which is a extremely Mega Man inspired game where the character, she looks very similar to him, has similar powers, you go through similar levels, but it's a really challenging roguelite. And it looks great, it plays great. If you're somebody like me who's a big Mega Man X fan, it feels like this is what it would be like if they were still making them today. And so those are extremely worth checking out if you get the opportunity.
Nice. Yeah, I heard a lot of people mention 30XX as one of the
It's so
highlights that they
good.
played. I played. This isn't coming to Nintendo. I did play Foam Stars. I think you did too. And
I think it qualifies as Nintendo
yeah,
adjacent.
it's the very Splatoon-esque game. It was fun.
Very inspired, we'll
Yeah,
say.
very much so. Splatoon is
We
better,
both played it.
but it was fun. Yeah, and then I played one that I'll talk about that is coming to Switch. Is Thank Goodness You're Here, which is coming from the publishers of Untitled Goose Game. This was announced at Gamescom Opening Night Live, and they call it a comedy slapformer, and that is really a great description. It's like it is a slapstick comedy game with a really cartoony, almost like, man, you know the show like Gravity Falls or art style like that, like really just cartoony characters, and it is just hilarious. It's from the UK, and their voices, like the voice acting is just hysterically funny. The things they're talking about, it has that dry sense of like British humor, and like there's this one you're walking around this really short like yellow dude with like a lemon head basically, and all you can do is run, jump, and slap. And that's it. And you're just walking around this tiny town helping people with their problems. And then these like little sketch comedy scenes start to play. Like this guy who runs like the produce shop, he has this huge head and someone makes fun of his big head and it sends him into this like really like triggering flashback about all the times he's been bullied about his huge head throughout his life. And like he falls in love with this woman and she's like, I think it's just a perfect size. And she's like stroking his forehead. He's taking a school picture, but his head's cut off and he gets made fun of for it. And then like his wife leaves him and is like, I'm sorry, it's just too big. And she slams the door. Like it is just hysterical. It's hard to make me laugh out loud, especially like in a video game. And this one, I was giggling at this one. It is really funny, and it's coming early next year, and it will be on Switch.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was my other highlight, besides Mario Wonder, which was my favorite thing.
So I will say, as a Splatoon-like Foam Stars, I thought was really fun.
Yeah.
It's the gameplay is clean, but that's a painful thing to say. But it's fun. It's like it scratches a similar itch. So if for whatever reason you like Splatoon but you don't have access to it, that it's a reasonable facsimile.
Yeah. I doubt you're listening to the show if that's your situation, but
that's
if
true.
You are, send us an email.
If that is you, please write into the show because oh my goodness, do I want to talk to you?
Yeah. You made it to the hour 5-minute mark of an all Nintendo podcast. Yeah, I want to hear from you. But no, it's cool. It's cool. I think that you don't. It's harder to in Splatoon when you shoot your ink at their ink, it covers it up instantly. And you can swim right through it. But in Foam Stars, it takes a lot. You have to like degrade their foam all the way down before you start building yours up. So it's a very different game, kind of traversal wise for that reason.
I don't know if I love that aspect of it, because I will say, like, sort of like in Splatoon when you're trying to swim through like the wrong colored ink, it's kind of miserable.
Yes. Yeah. So I think maybe that's because we were playing it like Splatoon. We haven't learned kind of the meta of how to make traversal easier in Foam Stars, but it's cool when you deplete someone's health bar, and instead of them just dying, they turn into a big ball of foam, and you have to surf over and whack them out of the arena. And if their team saves them before you knock them out, they're back in the game. Yeah, they also co-opt some of their multiplayer from Kid Icarus Uprising, which I have to mention on every episode, where once your team's been knocked out 7 times, the game decides who the MVP is based on your performance in the match, and they become the superstar. And the superstar has more health and does more damage, and the match ends when one side's superstar is defeated. It's just like the classic online multiplayer in Kid Icarus Uprising, where once your team runs out of health, someone turns into Pit or Dark Pit. It's the same. I know that they played it.
They were probably able to steal that because nobody played that.
I did. And I'm here to tell you about it on the Toadstool Boardroom. But that's the last thing I'm going to tell you about because we're done. We're done. Any final thoughts, PAX or Nintendo Live? What'd you think, Justin?
Had the best time. It was so great. I really hope that Nintendo Live continues. And it sounds like from your interview that they felt pretty good about it too. Yeah. So if that does come to a place near you, it is extremely worth checking out.
Yes. Feel very lucky it was in our area with PAX West this weekend. And Justin and I hung out in person all weekend, and it was a blast. It was awesome. Yeah. But that's going to do it for this week in the Toadstool Boardroom Weekly Nintendo Show. I did the spiel at the top. I'll do it again here Thursdays, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you like to listen to your shows. Video version on YouTube. You can find Justin on the internet. Where at?
On Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter, at KOREIS.
You can find me at Logan J. Plant. And go check out Justin's PAX West coverage over at digitaltrends.com. He's got the best things that he saw. He's got a Lords of the Fallen preview that went up on Wednesday. And you've got some more previews coming up.
I do. I've got a couple more pieces going up. I had a great interview with the CEO of Larian, where I was able to. He was very free about answering some interesting questions, and then I've got a really extensive piece on Pacific Drive that's going to take me a little longer to get. So in the meantime, they can spend their time reading your Doug Bowser interview or your Detective Pikachu preview. Thank you.
Yeah, go check those out on IGN.com. Video version of Detective Pikachu. Also a interview with the director of Detective Pikachu Returns, which was a lot of fun as well. Next week on the show, we're going to talk about the news items we didn't get to this week, like Tears of the Kingdom likely not getting DLC.
Big Zelda news.
Bummer. And then some more games just dropped on Switch Online. We will also talk about your listener emails that you kindly sent us last week that we knew we weren't going to have time.
We have not forgotten about them. I promise.
Yes, we have them. That'll be it. We'll do them next week, no matter what happens. Unless they announce the Switch 2. I think that's the only the only thing where those might get pushed. But for now, thank you so much for listening to the Toadstool Boardroom. We hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you here, same time next week here in the Toadstool Boardroom.